everyone, and welcome to Daily Newspaper Analysis, which is brought to you by Losico. First of all, deep regrets as yesterday's English newspaper analysis could not be uploaded. That is why we are going to cover the articles today itself. So today we will see the articles from yesterday's as well as today's newspaper. So let's see that which articles we'll be discussing first. The first one is from the Hindu newspaper, which is titled as Helping and Hindering Justice. This article talks about that how can we make the use of technology for various delivery systems and how can it be made more efficient. Please note that this article has been authored by Justice B.N. Sri Krishna, who is now a retired judge of the Supreme Court of India. And it was him actually who also was the head of the committee which had brought in the rules regarding the personal data protection laws in the country. The second article is from the Indian Express, which is titled as A Flawed Recipe, which talks about the ways with which we can fight anemia in the country and can really the fortified rice and other fortified food products help in this regard. The articles from yesterday's newspaper are, firstly, Climate Change, a Catalyst for Arctic Cooperation. So this article is from the Hindu newspaper, which talks about the problem of the Arctic pollution as well as the degradation that is being very rapidly caused at the Arctic. So what can the stakeholders do in this regard has been discussed in this article. And the second one is from the Hindu, which is titled as The Legal Challenges in Recognizing the Taliban. So as we know that Taliban has taken over the Afghanistan. So what does the future hold in this direction and how much can legally Taliban be recognized as the government of Afghanistan has been discussed in this article. This newspaper analysis is discussed by me. My name is Sheva Khan. I am a law graduate and I had completed my BA LLB law degree from Uttaranchal University with a gold medal in my batch. I also have been a national debater as well as a public speaker, and here at Losico I'm working as the manager for current affairs vertical. If you wish to connect with me, you can find me on my Twitter as well as LinkedIn handles. The links to both are available in the description box below. Let's see what is the multiple choice question from previous discussions. Cyclone Taute was originated in the, your options are Bay of Bengal, Arabian Sea, Persian Gulf or South China Sea. If you know the answer, you can put it down in the comment section below. This is the descriptive question for the day. How can we fight the problem of anemia? What steps have been taken so far in this direction? So let's quickly start a discussion for the first article of the day, which talks about technology for improving service delivery. So recently, the Supreme Court pointed out that some of the major impediments that are the major hurdles or obstacles in the delivery of vaccines were, firstly, inadequate digital literacy, inadequate digital penetration, and serious issues of bandwidth and connectivity. So this basically puts out the problem or the problem of digital divide that the country is going through, as many places where people could register for the vaccines very easily, they were not able to do so because they were not that well digitally literate. Due to this, what happens is that ultimately the service delivery system gets hampered in the long run. So let's talk about the service delivery in a bit more detail. So in May 2020, the Supreme Court introduced a new system of e-filing and artificial intelligence enabled referencing. So due to this, the efficiency, transparency and accessibility of the government could have increased. So this seeks to harness the technology in overcoming and resolving the backlog of cases and high levels of vacancies in the court. Deep house cleaning is required in each court and outreach to all litigants in a cost-effective and efficient manner is also required. But also, over-reliance on technology, obviously, if done without forethought, could become counterproductive as well, because obviously there are a lot of flaws also which are attached with technology. Like, for example, we still do not have the data protection laws in the country, and that is why it might become difficult for the stakeholders to keep huge amounts of data safe with themselves. And that is why over-dependence on technology is also something very dangerous. Next, the pendency reached an all-time high during virtual functioning of courts. Across 25 high courts, the pendency increased by approximately 20.4% in 2019 and 20. So this article also presents some way forward or some steps that we can take in this direction to basically improve the service delivery system in the country. It says that firstly, we need to study and understand why video conferencing in criminal cases has neither shortened the trials nor reduced the number of people awaiting the trials. Basically, we need to understand that why even digital methods of video conferencing or digital methods of trials have not significantly helped in reducing the number of pending cases. Also, we need to address the uneven digital access, because obviously there are areas where even basic network and smartphones are not available. So keep apart or keep away the idea of having the trials on a digital basis. So definitely we have shortage of infrastructure that has led to the lack of access to online hearings. Then the technology cannot replace the shortfalls in the number of judges, which was according to the Justice Report of 2020, 38% vacancies were there in the high courts and 22% were there in the district courts during 2018 and 19. See, obviously, even if the trials are taking place through digital media or through online basis, still, if there is a lack of number of judges in our legal system, that cannot really be sufficed by the technology that we are bringing in. So definitely we need to fill up in the vacancies as soon as possible. So according to the latest vision document of phase 3, e-courts project, it seeks to address the judiciary's digital deprivation. It envisages an infrastructure for judicial system. There are two preconditions that needs to be addressed. Firstly, there needs to be adequate trained manpower that can actually handle the online or the digital transformation. And secondly, we need tailoring system to specifications. With this, let's discuss the second article for the day, which talks about addressing the problem of anemia. Now, when we talk about anemia, amongst other problems that we face in the country, amongst malnutrition, anemia is a very, very severe problem when it comes to specifically the women of the country. So recently, the Prime Minister announced distribution of fortified rice on 15th August. By fortified rice, simply we understand that it is basically rice that is added with basic or more kinds of micronutrients, supplements, and other kinds of minerals and vitamins that are required by the body. So if we talk about the situation of anemia in India, so anemia prevalence in India might be inflated as WHO hemoglobin cutoffs are used to diagnose in India, and the growing global consensus that this might be too high. But still, this cannot hide the fact that yes, of course, India and specifically the women in India face the problem of anemia. So the recent Lancet paper, it suggested a lower hemoglobin that will actually reduce the anemic burden by 2/3 in India. So the hemoglobin level can be falsely low when a capillary blood sample is taken instead of reliable venous blood sample. So basically what happens is that many a times the way a blood sample is recorded, that also determines as to what would be the count of hemoglobin that would be on an average be calculated. So using capillary samples inflates the anemic burden, but still, yet again, we are emphasizing on the fact that there could be definitely some issues with the recording of the hemoglobin levels in the country, but still the fact that India is facing the problem of anemia cannot really be denied. Let's also understand that does the iron deficiency in the body cause anemia? So yes, primarily it is thought to be one of the primary causes of anemia in India, but according to the recent Ministry of Health and Family Welfare survey, it showed that the iron deficiency was related to less than only half anemic cases in Indian children, which means that there could be some other subtle and more reliable reasons that could be there behind anemia in the country. So the rice fortification step comes from the premise based on older iron requirements. So here, now why actually this article has also been named as a flawed recipe. It says that if at all we think that just by providing fortified rice to the people who are suffering with anemia, we would be really, in the real sense, be able to fight anemia. That might not be the truth, because it says that if at all we think that fortified rice is the solution, so this is a solution if we think that iron or the lack of iron is the most important cause of anemia. But the recent reports have shown that lack of iron is the cause of anemia in only half of the cases of anemia, which means that even fortified rice would be able to cure or would be able to treat only half of the cases of prevailing anemia. And the latest requirement is of 30 to 40% lower. So which means that other kinds of steps also need to be taken in this direction if we really, in the real sense, want to fight the anemia. So let's also understand in a bit greater detail as to is the rice fortification suitable for India or Indian requirements. So if iron present in the Indian foods, or which is already present in the Indian foods, is not well absorbed, then it will be like flogging a dead horse. So basically what happens is that already, if we see that basic Indian diet, it has good amount of iron. Like for example, there is good amount of eating habit when we talk about the green leafy vegetables that already have a lot of iron, right? So if at all we, due to our circumstances or due to the kind of routine that we follow or the cooking methods that we follow, if we are not able to absorb the already available iron and we are further giving the fortified rice to the people, this would simply result in the flogging or just overcrowding of iron into the body without giving any positive effects. So it says that layering it over other ongoing iron programs will do more harm than good. So basically it says that the salt and wheat flour fortification is already going on in some states that also is very much beneficial in fighting the anemia. And if at all we want to fight anemia, we need to have some more and innovative methods rather than layering the similar kinds of schemes or similar kinds of methods on the people. For example, Anemia Mukt Bharat program of the pharmaceutical iron supplementation is already running, and that is why it would be better if we pay better attention on better implementation of this program. So the unabsorbed iron affects havoc among beneficial bacteria in a large intestine, and that actually, instead of causing benefit, it actually causes a lot of harm. So iron causes oxidative stress, implicates the diabetes, and also increases the cancer risk as well. And that is why we should be very sure while we are making such fortification in the rice or any other food supplement, because we should be able to make a balance amongst all the other schemes which are simultaneously running for the similar cause. So let's see the third article for the day, which talks about the catalyst for Arctic cooperation. So recently, the growing tensions between the NATO, that is the North Atlantic Treaty Organization allies, and Russia that have direct access to the Arctic resources. So which are these countries? Canada, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, the Russian Federation, Sweden, and the United States. So all of them have developed tensions with Russia. And what has happened is that since 2013, 6 observers have also joined the Arctic Council. Now, in this regard, it becomes difficult to bring upon a smoother policy to govern over the Arctic region and to reduce or mitigate the climate change that is happening over there. Let's also know about the security concerns that are going through, that the Arctic region is going through. So in October 1987, Mikhail Gorbachev, who was the then Secretary General of the Soviet Communist Party, acknowledged the end of the Cold War era and promoted a zone of peace in the Arctic. So this basically perceived harmony that was broken in 2007 when Russian explorers planted their flag on seabed, which was 4,200 meters below the North Pole, and it claims it is there actually on the Arctic. So this peace holding of the Arctic region was actually broken by Russia in the year 2007. Further, the problems or the tensions increased in the area during the times of 2014 conflict, wherein the conflict was there between Russia and Ukraine when Russia had annexed Crimea. So Russia was seen as a rule breaker, revisionist power, and an untrustworthy player as well. And Russia's intention to re-establish the military might of the Northern Fleet also created the security concerns. So basically, here, the other countries, the other stakeholders that were there to maintain the security and to maintain the climate control in the Arctic region, now they are worrying of the fact that Russia might take over the other countries and might establish its greater claim on the Arctic region, and that is why these security concerns are coming over in the region. Now, if we understand about the climate change issue, which has been the actual catalyst in the current times, so the environmental challenges should be an absolute priority for all the players in the Arctic region, and it should outweigh military and economic issues, because as we know that the Arctic is warming nearly 2 times as fast as the rest of the planet, and that is why keep apart the military issues, keep apart the security and the economic issues, the environmental challenges should be given the most important privilege, and that is why all the members, all the stakeholders of the Arctic Council should come together to fight against the climate change in this region. So if you understand about the geopolitical versus the strategic control or the strategic idea of the Arctic region, so the environmental transformation and rapid ice melting has opened new opportunities, attracting both the Arctic as well as the non-Arctic players like the trans-Arctic shipping routes as well. So the significance of the region is that it is diversifying the shipping lanes, as when the snow would melt in this region, a long journey or the long route that has to be taken through the Atlantic Ocean and others would easily be taken through the Arctic Ocean, which would be available after melting of the ice. But yet again, we need to understand here that at what cost are we going to have that economic benefit. So this was for this article. Let's see the last article for the day, which talks about the problem of legally recognizing the Taliban. So Taliban's takeover of Afghanistan has actually triggered a new debate in the international law on the issue of recognizing an entity, that is Taliban over here, that claims to be the new government of a state. Now here, Taliban is claiming to be the new government of the state, but how much can the international law and order legally take this claim as a legal one or a legal tender? This has to be seen. Now, though China and Russia have shown a readiness to recognize this, whereas Canada has actually opposed it. Now, let's understand that how the recognition of a government is done at the international forum. So, it is important under the international law for the following reasons. Firstly, to know as to who the governing authority of the state is, who has the responsibility for effectually carrying out domestic and international obligations like the diplomatic relations, etc. See, let's say, for example, India is a country. It is definitely represented by the government of India. Now, whatever steps India would take at the international forum or at the diplomatic ties, let's say be it the bilateral ties with any country or multilateral ties through any international treaties or organizations, so whatever steps India would take, there is an authority that the international people know would be responsible for all the steps taken by India. And who is this authority? It is the government of India. So if at all there is anything done by India, let's say that there is something that there is some harm caused by India in the international waters or at the international borders, so it will be possible for the international people or the international countries or the international forum to claim or put the claim onto someone to get their to get their penalties through out of that a particular authority, and that is the government of India. Like for example, if XYZ country claims human rights violations that were done by India, let's say for example, so India will be answerable through its government of India at the international forefront. But just consider an example that there is a state and there is no one in the actual situation or at the international level to take the responsibility of the actions of that particular state. Don't you think that it would be like just a reckless horse that can run here and there, cause any harm to anyone, and we cannot, we can't even hold anyone responsible for that loss. So that is why at the international level, it is important to recognize that who is the governing authority of a particular state, so that if at all there is a need, the responsibility can be laid on that particular governing authority. So here there is a test of effectiveness also that follows. So we need to determine whether the government effectively controls the state, that is the territory, the majority of the population of that country, the national institutions, the banking, the monetary system, etc., if it claims to be the government. See, obviously, when government of India, let's say the president, the prime minister, all of these, they claim to be the government of India, they definitely have a lot of things under their effective control, like the territory, the banking, the money, the military, the finance, etc., the defense. So when all of these things effectively seem to be under the control of a particular authority, that is the test of effectiveness. Then also we have the test of democratic legitimacy. Now, this actually is a bigger question when it comes to Afghanistan case. See, when it comes to effectiveness, that maybe in the current situation, we would see that, yes, of course, mostly the most important things of the nation of Afghanistan are controlled by Taliban. But is Taliban also going to pass the test of democratic legitimacy? Is this the kind of government that the people also want over there? That might be a difficult question to answer. So whether it is the legitimate representation of the people it claims to govern or not. So the government that capture the power through democratic means is only recognized, which means that the government which was there of Ashraf Ghani, that could have supposedly been considered to be as a government of democratic legitimacy, But Taliban, the way it has taken over the power in Afghanistan, might not be able to suffice the question of democratic legitimacy. And here, similar would be the case perhaps of the Myanmar as well, wherein after the military coup, the military of Myanmar has taken over the democratically chosen government of Myanmar. And that is why such governments mostly fail the test of democratic legitimacy. Now let's also consider that what are the options available for India in this regard. So considering Taliban's brutal past, the extreme ideology and profound absence of democratic legitimacy, India can withhold de jure recognition. So by de jure recognition, we would mean that the recognition which would actually pass both the tests of effectiveness as well as the test of democratic legitimacy. And as we can see that here Taliban in a way seems to fail the test of democratic legitimacy. So India can actually make a choice to withhold the de jure recognition only. So, but it will have to find a way to engage with Taliban given its huge investments and stakes in the South Asian region. Now, as we know that India has made huge investments when it comes to Afghanistan. So in such a regard, complete rivalry from Taliban would also not reap any benefits to the government of India. And that is why it should actually find a middle way or a middle path through which it can actually reap the benefits of its investments so far made. Also, India should adopt a clear policy that will deal with Taliban only because it is the de facto government. Now, as we know, here we can see that there is a difference between the de facto and the de jure recognition. So the de facto basically is a provisional one, whatever is available at the current moment, which can be withdrawn at any given time. Like, for example, the Taliban control, which is there right now in Afghanistan. But when we talk about the de jure recognition, it is permanent and it cannot be withdrawn. So that is why currently we can go on with the de facto recognition, but in the long run, it would always be better that even for the betterment of Afghanistan as well, that they have a de jure recognition of their government. So that was all for today. Please do not forget to catch this discussion on the podcast, which is available on Spotify, Google, Anchor, as well as Apple Podcast. Also, if you wish to download the PDF of today's slides, you can join our Telegram channel. The link to this channel is available in the description box below, or you can simply scan the QR code that you can see on your screens right now. Also, for other crisp and amazing content, do not forget to follow us on our official Instagram channels for Law Seeker Judiciary, CLAT Prep, and UGC Net if you're preparing for any of these exams. If you like this discussion, please give it a thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe to our channel for such more updates. Thank you so much.